we get to Brexit, can I ask you the big burning question of the morning? Should the next James Bond be female?
No. Fleming wrote the book. It was for a man. The idea it should be female is ludicrous.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
OK, that's the least surprising opinion I think that might have come from you this morning, Nigel Farage.
Would you give me a different view?
Yes, of course I would.
Yeah.
Well, then don't call it James Bond.
No,
exactly.
I wouldn't.
Get rid of it, scrap it.
Should call it Jane Bond or something.
Jamie Bond. Mr Farage, how would a non-aggression pact work? Which are the seats, if a general election is called, which are the seats that you're targeting would you go for? And have you had conversations with Boris Johnson about that?
Let's be clear about this. You know, we've got 630 candidates approved, ready to fight the general election.
OK. So one for every constituency?
Absolutely. We won't stand against the ERG because they've said under no circumstances would they back that treaty, Mrs May's treaty, being reheated and coming back.
OK, so you won't be... So Brexit Party candidates will not stand against, for instance, Ian Duncan-Smith or Mark Francois?
No, Ian Duncan-Smith in the end voted for it. But Mark Francois...
Oh, in the end he did,
in the end, just as Boris did. You see, I mean, people say, well, why don't Brexit Party supporters all back Boris? Well, because Boris actually has wobbled around on this. But let's be clear. So
you would stand against a hardline Brexiteer like Ian Duncan-Smith, then?
Ian Duncan-Smith voted for the treaty. Now, if Ian Duncan-Smith says, all right, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done that, I'll never vote for it again, then of course I'd change my mind. Of course I would. But... So
there are still hardline Brexiteer MPs who are vulnerable to your attack?
Anybody that voted for Mrs May's treaty is not a hardline Brexiteer. That really is the point I'm making here. That treaty, I mean, quite frankly, if that treaty, that withdrawal agreement became law, I mean, we may as well stay in the European Union. It's that bad. We'd finish up having laws made for us somewhere else, court judgments made against us without any say whatsoever.
Is there, in fact, any... So, as a Remainer, which I was and would still be, is there, in fact, any way to resolve this that works better than no deal? In other words, no deal at least has a finality to it. If we did actually crash out on October the 31st...
Clean break Brexit,
right. But actually, I don't see any other way through this where...
There isn't.
But Boris, at the moment, is being prohibited by Parliament from doing that. So how do we get through that?
Well, that is so disgusting it's not true. I mean, here we have a zombie parliament. It doesn't work. The government lost 4 votes last week. It's a minority government. We need a general election to refresh Parliament.
But Labour won't let him have one.
The fact that Labour are trying to firstly stop Brexit and secondly stop us having an election, I think it's doing them more damage outside London, around the country, than anybody realises. I want Brexit done. And if Boris reaches the conclusion, the logical conclusion, that the only way we can deal with this is to have a clean break Brexit, even if that means 1 or 2 bumps in the road in the short term, if Boris goes for that in a general election, and by the way, Corbyn can stop an election for now, but in the M1's coming, then I would say, let's work together, let's get Brexit done.
But going back to that point, are you only in favour of a no-deal Brexit? You call it a clean break
Given the
Brexit.
timeline, yes.
Do you not think it's possible for Boris Johnson to get a decent trade deal sorted? No,
because the European Union is saying, this is it, this is our 600-page document, you know, we might amend it ever so slightly, but this is it. Mrs May has left us in this mess. Look, I spent, unlike almost everybody else in this debate, I spent 25 years in business before being in politics, buying and selling goods, shipping them all over the world. I know how trade works. I've always wanted a free trade deal with the European Union, but given where we are now, the choice is either we go for that treaty or we go for a clean break.
Let me ask you this, Nigel.
And afterwards, we can sort out a trade deal.
On the issue of we leave with no deal, for argument's sake, somehow Boris manages to get this to happen, the fear is, as you know, from the other side, is that there will be food shortages, medical supplies, and so on.
Yeah.
What is the reality? We immediately go under WTO rules under that circumstance. Does that allow us to set our own tariffs on stuff coming in or not?
Of course. I mean, if we wanted to, we could reduce the price of children's clothes, shoes, food. It'll be up to us. We would be in charge of all of those things.
So is there any reason why WTO rules would prohibit us from having an arrangement which allows the normal flow of food, medical supplies and so on?
These arguments are ludicrous. They're made by people who've never bought and sold and traded a good.
Well, they're important arguments,
lives.
but what's the answer?
Well, they're important. I mean, it's scaremongering. It's ludicrous scaremongering.
Well, what is the answer, though?
Trade will continue. And not all our trade goes
through completely on our terms, or is it dictated by WTO?
The WTO sets a baseline, all right, for how business is continued. But if we were deadly serious, if Brussels really thought we were leaving in 50 days' time, quite possibly we could negotiate, I'm going to get too technical, but we could negotiate under GATT a freeze, whereby we carried on with everything as it was with Europe for the next 2 years. We'd have left the European Union. So there are plenty of good ways of sorting this out. But even if, Piers, we leave on WTO, do you know, go to Southampton today, go to Felixstowe today, you will see containers coming in from China on the biggest ships you've ever seen, and they're on lorries and up the motorways, you know, within minutes.
Labour's position, which seems to me utterly staggering, is that they want to win the election when it happens. They then want to go to the European Union and negotiate a new deal, then go to a second referendum in which they would campaign against the deal they've just negotiated and would vote and would campaign to stay in. I mean, this seems to me the stuff of madness.
I thought it was April
and when they
Fool's Day.
accuse Boris and the Tories of being self-interested and all the rest of it, duplicitous and so on, we have had so many of these Labour politicians in the last 4 years saying absolutely they would honour the result of any referendum. They actually had a campaign manifesto pledge in the last election saying after the referendum, we are still going to honour it. We've had Jeremy Corbyn at this desk pledging no second referendum, we will honour it repeatedly. And yet here they are saying, basically, we just want to stop Brexit.
Labour is now Remain Party, backing a second referendum. That's where they are. Corbyn has been slowly but surely pushed into that position. And actually, they're potentially in more trouble on this than the Conservatives. The Tories may be split and arguing and people resigning and all the rest of it. But out there are 4 to 5 million Labour voters who voted Leave, who, when they realise what Labour's become, I think Labour's in real trouble on this.
You see, Remainers say everyone's changed their minds. I have to say...
far from it.
I have to say, people send me tweets from people claiming they have. I have not personally met anybody in my circle of friends or family or wider acquaintances, anybody who has genuinely changed their mind.
OK, sorry, we have had people sitting here at the desk who have changed their mind. Gavin Williamson, a number of members of the Cabinet have changed their minds.
Let me qualify that.
So,
hang on, let me respond to you. Hang on. I would qualify by saying, apart from self-interested politicians who want to retain their power and have performed dramatic U-turns on their positions
of... And they voted Remain, and they're so fed up with either the way the EU are behaving or with the whole paralysis of politics that they've changed their minds.
I tell you, forget whether people have changed their minds. I tell you what people do want. They want this over. They want it done. They want us to get on with the rest of our lives. And I think, you know, who wants this to dominate our politics, our country for the next 5 years, 10 years?
I totally agree.
Just do it.
To be fair, Mr. Farage.
And I'd like it over. And that's why I'm prepared to help the Prime Minister. I'm prepared to put country before party, and I will work with Boris Johnson if he goes for a clean break.
You said...
But only if he goes for a clean break.
Yes, not for that treaty, not for reheating.
What if he does manage somehow? What if the EU do blink and he does get a new concession, say on the backstop?
That's not enough.
It wouldn't be enough.
Hang on, you don't even know what the concession would be.
I've read the letter. On the 19th of August, Boris wrote to Donald Tusk saying, please remove the backstop. If you remove the backstop, the rest of the deal is satisfactory. It is not satisfactory at any level.
And that's not going to change your position on that?
Absolutely not. I didn't spend 25 years trying to get out of the European treaties to sign up to a new one that gave us even less power than being a member.
OK,